I think we're doing a lot of things right. We just, the way I described it to everyone is just we just need more time in the oven. It's just we're not done yet. We're 4 weeks in with 4 track sessions in, and that's not really enough to be able to put world class performances up against 6 Olympic medalists.
Today's guest is one of the best 1500-meter runners of this generation, a 1500-meter world champion, a 1500-meter silver medalist, a 1500-meter bronze medalist, and a 2-mile record holder indoors. Josh Kerr will give us his reaction to the start of the brand new Grand Slam Track League, all things track and field, YouTube, and much more. Thank you guys for being here, and welcome to the B Show. Josh Kerr, welcome to the B Show, man. Thanks for coming on.
Of course, man. I've been watching the episode, so I'm prepped a little bit coming in. But yeah, excited to chat today. I think we could have a good conversation. I think we're doing a lot, and we've known each other for a good few years now. So I think the first time we actually properly met was at your wedding, which is kind of funny. But it was it's been that's been a good few years since then.
That is funny. That probably was like the first time we hung out together. And obviously my wife, your fiance, know each other very well, and it was like, hey man, thanks for coming to my wedding. Like
yeah. I felt weird because it was like obviously Lamar was in your guys' wedding, but like I didn't know you guys super well, so I was just kind of like the in between, like I'm not involved, but like I kind of am. But it was a great day, man. It was very fun.
Probably one of those interactions where like, yeah, man, well, I'll see you soon. Like thinking like, yeah, I just came to this wedding, probably never going to see this guy again, and here we are years later, hopping on a podcast together. So thanks for coming on. You obviously you just came off of, I assume you just probably got back to Albuquerque either yesterday or when did you get back? Sunday night?
Yeah, we got back Monday, like afternoon, so yesterday. So we have to fly out. So the way that the Grand Slams work, we race either Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday. And so it's the back-to-back days. And so everyone has to be there by Wednesday because we have media on Thursday, and then the races and all that stuff begin on the Friday, and then we all leave on Monday. So it's a pretty long week, and we're doing them back-to-back, 4 of them back-to-back for pretty much once a month, and so by the time that you get back and you have to leave again, it's probably like 2.5 weeks, something like that. So it's a bit of a shift, but it's we got the travel done. The first one was in Jamaica, which is obviously a lot more difficult to get to than the other ones are all kind of in the US. So hopefully a little bit easier on the travel and scheduling. But yeah, it was a fun one.
Well, let's dive into some of that because before we get into like the racing aspect, so you guys are obviously a part of Grand Slam track. There's obviously prize money that they've said that they're going to award you guys for how you finish in your 2 races. But is accommodation, everything, is that sorted on their end? Or is it kind of like, hey, you're an individual, you can stay in an Airbnb or you could stay at a hotel? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so the way it's structured is, so half the athletes are racers and half the athletes are challengers. So the challengers, they change each meet. And so I'm a racer, and so that means I'm signed on for all 4 meets. But the idea of the overall league is that we're going to be treated like professionals, because track and field is kind of in this weird spot where it's treated like a professional sport in some areas, and then you watch the Olympics, you're like, wow, like this is an amazing sport to watch. But then outside of that 4-year cycle, you don't really see it all that much. Like it's almost like LeBron would just go down to his local gym sometimes and play a game, and you don't know about it, like because he can play against like high schoolers and stuff. Like that's what our schedule used to be like. So the way this is viewed is very different. So the way that it works is they'll book all of our travel through this app, which is kind of cool. So we don't need to pay for it and get reimbursed. They'll book all of it, and it's what they pride themselves on is like everything's business class travel and like 5-star hotels, which we're not used to. Like that's not how it normally works for us. And so they fly us out, and then they keep us there for the week. And then so when it comes to bringing my kind of group and team out, it's like I get them an Airbnb. But a lot of their travel is also covered by the meet as well. And so it's kind of cool because everyone has their own teams. It's all very individual. Like I think we had 6 I brought my mum out for physio, Nicole, who's my manager, Julian was my coach, and we brought Jamil out, who's my chef, and then Westy out for videography. And so they all stayed in Airbnb, and they kind of helped everything for the week. So that's going to be how it works for us.
Nice. That's big time. That's actually good to hear. I think like that is proper from the league, you know, because I was just having a conversation with someone about this. Like sometimes you can go to a sporting event and it looks like all glitz and glam, the lights are on, it looks good, but behind the scenes, the organization might be a bit of like, and especially for a Grand Slam, it's essentially a startup company, so you never know. I think that's awesome to hear that they're doing things properly, and the Peacock stream was amazing. I watched all 3 days. What was the atmosphere? I know the weather was kind of crazy, warm, windy, but the fans seemed like they showed up. What was it like running?
Yeah, I think the weird part with the fans is the atmosphere was actually really good, and when I watched back, there's definitely, especially on Friday, like it doesn't look like packed because the camera angles are kind of in certain places, but the tough part is again, it's a new league. We don't have a product yet. We can't show everyone like this is what happens at these meets. Like we run fast times, the crazy rivalries. There's lots of money on the line, and so to sell people on that is difficult. I think to start with, I think they're using a lot of structures from the UFC, and where they're like, as long as viewership is up, like we're going to take it as like a positive, and then we can try and build into the atmosphere within the stadium. But you can't change everything about an event overnight. And so the first one was definitely a tester. And I personally, and maybe this isn't a problem, but this is what I saw personally is like the Jamaicans, if you're going to start a meet on Friday at 5 p.m., like Kingston traffic to start with is crazy. People are working and there wasn't parking at the event. And so I think that had a bit of an effect on the people in the stadium. But when I was racing on the Saturday and Sunday, I thought it was a fantastic atmosphere. Jamaicans love track and field. And so it was a cool place to start. But I think logistically doing it outside the US with a US based model of like selling tickets and marketing, it's difficult to get everything right. But I do think like the product of what people watched was pretty good. And then, yeah, the weather it was hot and it was really windy. But it came to people's favor, but it was definitely a tough environment for me for being the first race I've ran in like 7 months. So it was interesting on the result page.
Yeah, I just saw a video talking about the wind. I just saw a video Grand Slam posted like the day before. They had like a bit of like a kind of like a tornado essentially, like rip through the track, like throw some tents around. But that shed light onto the 800 meter that you guys were running on Sunday when you were at one point literally running straight into the wind, which looked brutal. And I imagine it's like that hot wind.
Yeah.
So you touched upon the results. Obviously, fifth place in the 1500, 335.61. And then eighth place in the 800, 150.68. Just kind of first race in 7 months, and coming off of you were supposed to race, but one of your better episodes on YouTube, the throw up episode, I personally enjoyed it. But yeah, just kind of curious, like where the head's at, what the thought process is, kind of reflecting 48 hours post your last race.
Yeah, I think as athletes, I think we can overanalyze early sometimes, and so I left my tougher conversations to today, and I had those with the staff and everyone, and just kind of saying, look, I'll take a lot of responsibility here, but I think the biggest thing that I think we're doing everything right. I suffered with an injury for about 2.5 months. With my hip, and so we just didn't get really any training done for that block, and we've had a really good 4-week block that's put us back on level playing field with the best 1500 meter runners in the world, and I was able to kind of show that and close enough to showing that on the Saturday, and Sunday coming off of that with a 20-hour turnaround, it just wasn't a great reflection on where we're at, and so I'm taking it race by race, and I think we're doing a lot of things right. We just, the way I described it to everyone is just, we just need more time in the oven. It's just, we're not done yet. We're 4 weeks in with 4 track sessions in, and that's not really enough to be able to put world-class performances up against, 6 Olympic medalists. It's going to be magnified, all those results. So yeah, I think we're taking a lot of positives from it. First race, injury free as well, coming off of it, and we have another 4 weeks to prepare for Miami. So it's definitely not where we want to be at, but I think we're definitely closer than we have been in the last kind of 5 months. So that feels exciting, and I think we can get too down and we can get too high sometimes. So I'm trying to keep it level today and this week as we move back into the hard work. And yeah, the training started back up yesterday. We don't kind of take the days off. We're just going to keep pushing through. So yeah, it's good.
That's awesome. I guess this is a good time to pull. We'll keep it light. I wanted to show you this. Come here, big guy. Come here.
That's Josh.
Oh, hello.
There's Josh. Before we dive into like more of the racing, come on, Josh. I'm gonna share my screen with you.
Hi, Josh.
Hi.
Yes.
How are you?
Can you see this, Josh?
Yes. Yeah.
This was watching your race this weekend.
Come on, Josh.
Yeah, Josh.
There's Josh.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, what California kid, eh?
He is a California kid.
Throwing it out. You're a surfer boy.
I live in Oceanside.
He does live in. You do live in Oceanside. Are you a big Josh fan? Did you watch Josh run this weekend?
I'm a Finn fan. You know that. You freaking know that. Yeah.
All right, big guy. Say bye, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
Bye, Finn. I'll see you, buddy.
Go with mama.
That's amazing.
I was gonna bring him in at the end, but they came in now. That was to keep it light,
That's amazing. I love that.
To let you know, you still got fans no matter what the result is. You're still inspiring people, but yeah. So that I wanted to talk. I think that's good where you're at. I was thinking about it today before we sat on this call, and I was like, you guys are in a sport that obviously similar to golf. Like especially now with the Grand Slam League, you're obviously competing with 8 other athletes. You're not almost meant to win. Like winning is obviously the pinnacle of it, but like everywhere else you finish is like that kind of shows where you're at. But like winning is so difficult, and you still have 3 more races, and I know you're one to not shy away from what needs to be done and to take on a challenge and to continue to kind of continue to say like you're one of the best runners in the world, which you absolutely are. You've proven that over your career. So I think what you said was awesome. I curious to pick your brain on the race strategy of the 1500 meter going in. And then, obviously from my perspective, I'm obviously not a track analyst, but you pushed about 250, 225 meters left to keep off Wanyoni, who eventually went on to win it. When you look back, when you reflect on that push and trying to hold him off, is that something you would have done differently?
So the funny thing is, we have a couple YouTube episodes coming out of this meet because it's kind of the big reason I started the YouTube channel is to kind of show what it's like from an athlete's perspective behind the scenes with this stuff because no one really knew what was going on. But during my race preview with Danny before the race, I said exactly what was going to happen. Because I knew what was going to happen, because I've been around this long enough, and I said what's going to happen is people are going to oversell themselves down the backstretch because the wind's behind us. But when it comes to 50 meters to go, it's where it's going to be won, because the wind's going to be in your face, and so someone leading into that is either going to have a lot of confidence, or they're going to realize that people are chasing them down. And so I said to him, I said, if people are going to try and overtake me in the backstretch, I should lit them and then come back in the home stretch. But when it came down to it, I didn't let it happen because I felt like Yard, who was the one pushing at the time, didn't feel all that strong, but needed pressure on him. And so if I lost more position on him, I wouldn't be able to get back to where I was. And so I think that was where my flaw of like not racing for 6-7 months, of like not having trust in the fitness, that was where that kind of showed a little bit. But outside of that, that was kind of what we had planned on doing. But if I had allowed that move to happen and kind of stayed stagnant, I think I wouldn't have been fifth, is the best way to describe it. I don't think, it would be a tough one to say I would have won it, but I don't think I would have been fifth. And so allowing that to happen and not overselling without losing position, it's one of those cost benefit analysis in the split of a second. But it was it's definitely, I think, taught all the 1500 guys a lot going in. But the wind made a huge difference because none of us can run fast into that wind and win it. Because this is what I was saying to my coach today, where it was like the 1500 guys plus Neil, like whoever's leading it was never going to win. It's just a fact. Like with the wind, if you're going to lead it, you're never going to win because you've got two world-class guys behind you, and it doesn't matter if it's me, if it's Cole, if it's Yard, if it's Neil, like you weren't going to win. And so that's why it played out that way. It's like you didn't want to be the sacrificial lamb, and so you had to make it slow, which just put the 800 guys in it. And hopefully the win will be very minimal in Miami is the goal.
Hopefully. So from an outsider's perspective, like I've run on a track with wind in Albuquerque, as you have many times before. It's brutal. But what you're saying is that the person who's leading the race is taking on the brunt of that, right? And that there's actually a factor with the two people behind them that they're not taking on as much of that headwind, right? Is that what you're saying? Essentially, that's that what you mean by the person that's leading is not going to win?
Yes. Yeah. So they're not only like pushing pace, and so they're worried more about splits. They don't know what's going on behind them. But if you're watching someone, like if I'm running behind you and I've ran behind you a bunch, I know your tells of when you're tired and when you're not. And so when you have done all this work into the wind and I can see that you're tired, I'm going to just press and I'm going to push back, like past you at that time as well. So you're able to read someone's body language a lot better when you're behind and you can see where the race happening from like almost a bird's eye view. And that's why it's difficult to lead, because that's just a confidence move of like, I know if I'm hurting, they're hurting. So like, I'm just going to keep pressing on. And you can do that without wind. But when there's wind involved, there's a lot of doubt that comes into your brain of like, oh, like I'm really hurting. And like, maybe I'm showing it in my shoulders. Maybe I'm showing it in my, my pacing. And so if there's ever a moment, someone can just strike at you. So if we're all probably reasonably similar fitness, the person leading isn't going to win. And so you just hope that someone else is going to just send it and you just have to hang about. But it was just not going to happen that day.
That's so interesting. That's fascinating. I appreciate your feedback on that, because that's like something that I think that's part of growing the sport. And I think like let's talk about the YouTube stuff, because like obviously social media is such an interesting factor nowadays. You're obviously one of the best 1500 meter runners, if not the best of this decade. Now you're shedding light into your training habits, you off the track. But like those are the things that like we didn't have access to before, and now, and especially as this sport's growing with Grand Slam, I think I love the fact that you're doing it. I love the fact that Grand Slam is also encouraging you guys to go out and do it and shed light on some of this stuff. It's only growing the sport. Is that part of the reason why you're doing some of this, to help continue, not just to grow your brand, but grow the sport as a whole?
Yeah, I think I was sitting down. I work with a PR team in the UK, and they're amazing. And they're the problems, I think, with this day and age a little bit when it comes to sponsorships and things like that is that they want your time, and your time as an athlete is massively valuable. And so what that means is you don't have a big enough social media presence if they're asking for your time. So if it's like advert days or like appearance days and stuff like that, that means that you being there physically is more important to that brand than you posting on social media, which takes no effort from the athlete. And so I came to the conclusion that if I'm interested in what is behind the scenes with the Grand Slam, and I'm interested in showing more people what we do, and I feel confident that we're doing the right stuff, and people can take that the way they want to, that's kind of why I want to grow it. I want to be able to shed light on the next generation and just say like, this is what we learned, and it might not be right for you, but this is how we do it, and this is how we do it in a safe way, and how we build mileage and training and stuff like that. And this is what a race looks like at the highest level. And maybe people can learn stuff from that. And if that also gives value to the brands that I work with, so that I can focus more on training and not focus on flying all around the world to do adverts, like that also helps me in the long run of like, I need to train and you need me to present this brand. And so somewhere in the middle is someone just filming me training. And so like it was a balance of all of that. And that was the decision, but it was mainly around the Grand Slam where they said to me, look, like, we will give you accreditations for media or for personal media if you want it, and we want you to promote what you're doing. And I was like, oh, like that's really interesting, because I don't think they even knew what the league was when I signed on, because I didn't. And when I talk to them now, they're like, yeah, we had no idea. And so it's cool now to be like, okay, this is what it is. Like, if they didn't even know and I didn't know, like, how is anyone else going to know? So like, it might be pretty fun to show behind the scenes of what it looks like. And we would have the episodes out by now, but we have to wait a week. I think it's 7 days from competition that we have to wait to release the episodes, just for them to be able to show all their stuff first, because they invested a lot in their media stuff. But yeah, those episodes will be coming out at the weekend, and hopefully they're interesting. I watched the first one. I think it sheds a good amount of light on what we're doing and what it looks like.
You've watched your first video that you guys already produced.
Yeah.
And you said you're going to come out with 2?
Yeah, so
makeup?
broken up from like the first one will be the 1500 and the second one will be the 800.
Oh, okay, cool. Nice. And it'll be everything leading up, like that day, essentially, like what you did to prep, the race, kind of post-race.
Yeah, so it's built up into a little bit of travel, and then like we go through some nutrition stuff of like how we view the week, and like going through some stuff with our chef, and then pre-meet stuff, talking through tactics with coach, and then like a little bit of the build into the race on race day, and then the race, and then the come off the race, and a little bit of analysis, and then it kind of splits, and then it will build into the next one. So it's not a final edit, but that's kind of the general gist of it. And so hopefully, yeah, my goal is that people can, again, I don't think I'm doing everything right, but these are my processes. So hopefully it'll be interesting for people to maybe take things from that and learn from what we're doing. And I'm sure I'll get some negativity in there telling me I'm doing everything wrong. So that's always the fun part about YouTube, I'm sure you know about.
I'm much smaller than you, so everyone's been really nice, because I can
I'm
do
going to
my
start giving you some hate then. I'm going to have to give you some hate. It feels hard.
I'd love some Josh Kerr hate on my social media stuff. Come on, man.
I'll try.
Well, let's talk about that. Like, what a wild thing. Like, you're a 1500. Granted, I'm a friend of yours, so like I know who you are away from all that. But you are Josh Kerr. You're the 1500 meter runner who can talk.
Yeah.
You talk the talk, but you also walk the walk. What is it like when you get a comment on social media, someone just throwing hate at you from behind a computer screen? I'm curious, like what a weird world that is.
Yeah, I think the first time I got like some real like hate was indoors, I think 2018, for like I got like a cramp in the DMR, but people thought that I just gave up on my teammates or something like that. Like they were like, "Oh, this guy doesn't care about his team." I'm like, I ran the DMR. Like, why would I run it and then fail? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But people really hated that. They're like, this just shows how bad a guy is and all this stuff. And I'm like, damn, this really sucks. Like, this affects me.
Yeah.
So like for the last like 7 years, I've kind of realized that the bigger you get, the more hate you're gonna get. It's just not a situation of like the more people like you or the more people like will relate. It's like people are just gonna hate your guts. It doesn't matter if you do everything right, they're gonna hate your guts. And I think I've always said this, like Sydney McLaughlin, like she's a great example of this. Like she's won world champs, the Olympics multiple times. She's won everything you'd want to win, is a really nice person, is like this like very well spoken, religious, but people roast her, absolutely roast her for like not racing enough and like having no respect for like the fans. I'm like, how are you finding this negativity? Like, wait, like I would never be able to get away with, like, I'm not going to be able to get away with anything. So I was like, I'm just going to be myself, and people can take that as they are. And Even more recently, I think since the Olympics, it's a post and ghost situation. That's what we go for. Is we post it and then we don't read anything, and then my PR team will let me know what way the comments are swaying, and if there's any criticism that actually helps us to make better episodes. That's about it.
Man, oh man, like that's Joe Rogan talks all the time, post and ghost.
Yeah,
He's like he tells all his guys just post and ghost, post and ghost. But yeah, it's that's such a good point. Like you have someone exactly like you said, Sydney McLaughlin, who's doing everything right, and to someone there's still things she's doing wrong.
yeah,
And so what good does it do getting caught up in that? Because other than to just feel a little bit sorry for that person, just feel like, man, I wish you well, man. Like you're gonna comment on my stuff, like out of anger or whatever you're feeling because of me. Like I've been telling people that's been telling Holly this lately. Like the only one that's suffering is you. Like the only person that's suffering is that person.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So, but anyways, I know that there's someone on your team that gets caught up in those.
Oh yeah,
Those
there's
comments.
definitely a lady in this house that gets real mad, and I'm sure she's hearing me say this right now and is just boiling about it. But like that's yeah, it's. I mean, there's some good ones though. Like I'll read some of them and I'm like, that's so bad. It's funny. I think there was one in my like collegiate career where like people started giving me the nickname of like I don't know what it was like Josh McDoughboy or something like that because I was overweight apparently. And like I have some screenshots of some really bad ones where I'm like, imagine talking about like a 19-year-old about like just being like how fat he is and how unfit. I'm like, bro, I was running like a 3:49 mile, and you're like, oh, this guy is just like the epitome of bad health. And I'm like, come on, man, like I'm trying my best here, but we're all eating at Lapo and just like being like college kids, you know, like what can we do? So yeah, there's some good ones out there that I have to respect.
You can't help the fact that Frontier is like right across the street from UNM. You know, like
Exactly. Exactly.
that cinnamon roll was doing you good back in the day.
It's true.
Oh man, that is wild. But awesome. I know obviously Miami's coming up May 2nd through the 4th. I imagine. I guess before we get into Miami, kind of curious to like know your perspective. We don't have to dive into it too much, but just curious to know your perspective on the 800. Obviously, it's not a race that you run a lot, but given the fact that Grand Slam is doing things differently and requiring you guys to run two races, which I love that personal aspect to the Grand Slam League. Curious to kind of know just your quick opinion of it. Are you changing your training this go around to attack the 800 differently, or are you kind of still just going to focus primarily on the 1500?
Yeah, I think there's definitely specific stuff that we were told not to say within the media about that kind of stuff, just because the league has to have a certain amount of credibility. And so if I said something along the lines of, I'm not going to change my training to be an 800-meter runner in April, that doesn't make it super fun for people and credible for people to watch. And so that's why those comments haven't really come out. But yes, I'm doing my regular shit, and that's kind of the results we're looking at right now. And so that's been the interesting part. Coming off an injury, what you would normally do is you then start building base again. And so that's kind of what we've been doing. And so from there, from now, we can go, well, okay, this is working. Let's get a little bit more specific. And so we're going to be much better at the 1500 in Miami, a lot sharper, so that we can try and come out with a win at that. And the way that I'm looking at it is, if I win that 15, I'm going to be in the top 3 at the end of the standings. And so I just got to try and take out bodies in that 800. So that's the way I'm attacking it. I'm just going to focus on the main distance and then see what we got left in the tank for that 8. But the structure is the same for us this time around. It's 1500 then 800, but we're going Friday, Saturday instead of Saturday, Sunday. And then I think the structure changes for the last 2, doing 800 first, then 1500. So yeah, we'll keep it very similar for this one, and we'll make some tweaks. But yeah, we're just kind of pushing along the road a little bit.
I understand it from the Grand Slam's point of view of not having the athletes say that, but like as a fan, I would love that because it was like, for me, as like I'm noticing the money, right? The money aspect is another aspect that draws me into the league. And so if I hear an athlete saying like, yeah, I'm only going to focus on one race, I'm like, that's interesting to me because there's two races combined for them to win the money,
Yeah.
right? And maybe they go all out on the one race and they win it, but then like, where's that going to leave them? In terms of the official standings, what kind of money are they going to win because they're sacrificing the other race? So I get it from their point of view, but I
Yeah.
also respect it from the athlete's point of view and be like, no, I'm focusing on this. And the same thing happened in the 3000. I think it
Mhm.
was, it basically came into two guys going balls to the wall and like killing the rest of the field. And then, Grant Fisher is like, I just got to beat these guys. And it was like,
Yeah.
that was the race we were watching. We weren't watching the front two guys, So
Yeah,
it's
it's a whole new
interesting
look.
dynamic that the Grand Slam has presented.
Yeah, it's a whole new look, and it brings in lots of different factors. And I think Grant even said himself, he's like, I'm in this 3K doing math. I'm like, yeah, like sometimes you got to do that. Like it wasn't the way that I was looking at it, but when you've ran 7:22 for a 3K world record and you've ran like something ridiculous in the 5K for a 5K world record and you're fit and ready to go, like yeah, just sit and do math, bro. Like that's fine. Like you're walking away with 100 grand as long as you do the math right. Like that's okay. But that's what's interesting about those longer distance races where that does make a huge difference. In the 1500, 800 group, it makes maybe not quite as big a difference, but that's still part of it. Like, that's, if you get first and last, you're probably going to get third overall. And so, the minor places are, if you're in the middle, you're always going to stay in the middle of the bottom. You have to win for that 12-point differential between 12 and 8 for first and second is humongous. And so as long as you win one of them, you're going to be in that top three. And so if people focus on winning their main event and then try and place as high as they can in the other one, if they have a well-balanced field, I think it'll turn into some really interesting head-to-heads, and it allows for more analysis. And I think that's what they're looking for, is for people to be more interested in being like, I wonder what this guy could do here and here. And so, yeah, I think it's bringing some positivity.
Yeah, for sure. 12,500 bucks to your name. Obviously, that's not the 100 grand that you wanted, but I think that's I don't know. I love that aspect of the league. I think the transparency. One of the reasons why I personally love golf. One of the reasons why I love this Grand Slam format, because yeah, like we want to see the best athletes in the world earning good money, and we want to see the best athletes fighting for those places to try and earn, between 30,000 and 50,000 between third and second. I'm curious to know. I would imagine I know the answer for you, but I maybe answer this from an athlete's perspective. If you had any grasp of this over the general population of all the athletes, kind of what do you think that was thought about going into this race, the money aspect of it? When you're standing on the line, I assume you're not thinking about it, but overall, what would you say the money played into this meet?
Yeah, I think so. I can give you some. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but I'll just say it anyway because it would be fun if it came around and bite me in the ass. So the prize money structure that is shown is the least amount of money that is given to the athletes. So depending on when you sign with the league, your prize money structure is different. They definitely oversell the prize money early, and then they went, oh shit, we probably can't afford that, so we're going to break it down a little bit before we publish it. And so that's one thing to think about, like the money that comes in, like not saying that everyone's the same, but like from our structure and the people that I know, like the money that's on the paper isn't the money that's going into the pocket. It's normally a little bit more, which is cool. But from a racer or from a challenger standpoint, that's the money that's going in the pocket. And so from a racer's standpoint, like we all get paid salaries. So we're salaried for the 4 races, and if you miss one, you lose, I think 20%, not 25% of your pay, you're 20%. And so I would say the majority of the athletes that are within the racer structure get paid a 6-figure salary, I would guess. And then the challengers coming in don't get paid that much, like a couple thousand, I think, to turn up. Between a couple thousand, depending on who you are, like I'm sure it goes up. But baseline, that's what people get paid to show up. And so depending on who you are, the more you'll be worried about the money that's, you know, sitting there as like the donut at the end of the string. And I think it does make a difference, and you can see it in certain people's reactions as well. It's like, oh yeah, like, you know, because it's the most money that this sport has ever really seen from a prize money standpoint, and it's really cool. And I thought I had a really good time watching some of that. But I think that's a little bit more real. Like the realistic side of it is, you know, from our team, like, you know, we want to win for sure, but I think the actual event, winning the event, I think is more important to me than like the cash at the end of the event, just because I think winning one of these should feel like a major in golf or a major in tennis. Like, yeah, like, you know, they don't sit in their interview and go, yeah, winning the Masters, thank God I won that like $3.5 million. They're like, oh, like I won the Masters and I'm here with a green jacket. And I hope that's hopefully where we're getting to, but people need to pay their bills first and then we'll get there. So
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Obviously, there's the salary structure. This is a bonus structure, but yeah. It should be like, yeah, to, you know, hold that envelope that they were holding at the end. Like that should be, you know, put it on the green jackets. Priceless, right? That in itself, getting invited to next year or being a part of the champions dinner, that's what you're after. You're not after the $3.5 million when you set out, when you tee off on the first hole. You're not after the $100,000. You're after, yeah.
I say it from a guy that didn't win the $100,000, and so you take that with a pinch of salt, like, you know. But like that's hopefully where we're getting towards. Like I would prefer people get presented with something and then like get given their cash afterwards, but because we're a cash poor business, it's like let's focus on the cash so everyone feels happy about it. Like, so that's a bit weird. It's a bit weird.
It's an interesting take, and I'd be curious to know, like, maybe in 10 years we have a conversation about it differently, you know, that's what we needed to do back then, but now it's completely different. Yeah, some of the celebrations were hilarious, like the
yeah. I'm like, well, like, I mean, listen, 100K is a lot of money. It is, and like, especially where this sport is, and like where a lot of contracts are, and you have 96 athletes, and I can guarantee you all 96 aren't on 6-figure salaries, 7-figure salaries. They're not. And so winning 100 grand is a huge deal, and losing and winning 10 grand is a huge deal. I'm not trying to undermine that. I'm just trying to say, like, fuck, like, it makes us look even worse. You know, like it just does. There's no like, yeah, I'm here for the money. Like that's tough. And that's what was said at the press conference as well. Like a lot of people were like, yeah, like I signed because of the money. It's like, you should sign because you're racing against the best guys in the world and you get paid anyway. And like, that's hopefully where we're getting, but we're not there yet, but we'll get there.
I think that's a really important point to make, though. I think like that's talking about. Sorry, I apologize. I keep going back to golf, but like that's the whole point, right? Like you should want to compete against the best players in the world.
Yeah.
Right, and obviously, like that's why you're racing. That's why you're competing. And that's why you signed up, because you figured that they pitched the idea that they're gonna bring in the best 1,500, 800 meter runners in the world, and you're gonna get to compete against them. And iron sharpens iron, and it's only gonna make you better in the long run. The money helps. Obviously, the money pays the bills, and that's a factor in life, but that's not the key factor. I think, you understand where people's heads are at in terms of athletes, and I think that's also a good point to why you've probably had the career that you've had, because you weren't just chasing the dollar. You were chasing being the best in your sport.
Yeah, I think like I've definitely had some very hard conversations with the race directors about that, and like I do think if you're chasing money in this sport, you're going to be very short-lived, because it's hard. It was hard to find before this league, especially, like, you know, appearance fees weren't crazy high, and so, you know, when someone's offering you a good amount, you're like, oh yeah, definitely. But you can never get too far away from the performances and why you're good, and so this league will be an interesting one of, you know, people drop out last minute, and so some of the athletes that are coming in, like some of the athletes that ran the 3K, 5K, ran the 10,000 the week prior to try and get their 10K standard, and then came a week later to run a 3K and a 5K. So they've now run 18,000 meters on track within a week, and you're like, guys, what we do, so it's really a hard balance, and it's gonna take time to settle. But every sport's the same. Like, and I guess UFC started with that as well. Like the fight of the night bonuses, like that's what people were working towards, and they wanted to pay their bills. But now it's maybe a little bit less of the focus, and they're trying to get to the belt. So yeah, I hope that's going to be our organic transition into being a major sport that athletes get paid for turning up and doing their job, and not just kind of one person getting paid a lot of money and everyone else kind of dealing with the scraps. But yeah, I think they're definitely using a lot of the golf structure, using a lot of the tennis structure, and a little bit of the UFC structure as well. I do think the press conferences are going to move towards UFC press conferences as well. So that's what they were saying at the weekend.
When you mean UFC press conference, what do you mean by that? Like where like all the athletes are kind of together?
Yeah, lining everyone up on tables and giving everyone a microphone and asking the crowd questions, like getting the crowd to ask questions and media to ask questions.
I love that. I love that. Maybe I need to start putting my name in the hat, see if I can get one of those press passes.
Hey, to be honest, it was so funny. Like my friend Dom West, like, never held a camera before. And I hired him before he even held the camera, because I was like, "You're the right man for the job. You just don't know it yet." And he was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about. We're going to try." But it's funny. He's become amazing at it over the last couple of months, and he got one of 10 media accreditation passes that gave him all access to the whole event. And my mom asked him, she's like, "Oh," like, and Lamar asked him, like, "Oh, do you feel like a bit of an imposter syndrome? Because, like, you don't, like, you haven't really had much experience, and like you're now holding one of 10 passes in the track and field world that's like the hardest to get." He's like, "Nah, just not overthinking it, really." And so I do think there's something to it, man. We can get you in a media pass. I'm sure we could try and schmooze some people, but it's a fun atmosphere. I hope people come out to the ones in the US and really try and experience it first. I think Miami's going to be tough, just because we do have, like, I think Formula One's that weekend, and so there will be people in town that'll be busy. But will they come to track and field for 3 days? I'm not too sure. But as a live event, I think it's pretty awesome. I think you get a lot of bang for your buck, and I don't know about the prices in the US, but Jamaica, it was like grandstand seating's $10 for one day, or $20 for 3 days. And so it doesn't need much, and hopefully a lot of, like, US, like, some of the kids and some of the people growing up in this sport can come and watch, and it'd be affordable ticket. So I think it's getting there.
Yeah, you got Miami coming up, and then you got Philadelphia, and then in LA. I will definitely be in LA. Maybe I'll keep plugging along on the track and field world and see if I can get something in LA come, when is that, June, I believe?
Yeah, it's going to be in June. Yeah, we can. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I think you could be onto something, mate. You could be a track and field commentator by the end of the slams.
As long as I don't get too many bad comments after this interview, maybe if they look at some of the.
We will, because people will be coming at me, bees. They don't care about where I'm at. They just care about me getting bad comments. So I apologize in advance.
I'll just put my hands. I'm guilty by association. So no. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. I know, obviously, like 2 days after a big meet, 2 days after a big travel is not easy. I really appreciate your time, Josh. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for shedding light on your meet, on the Grand Slam, everything that is to come. And we're super excited to see you in Miami and moving on. I know that you're gonna attack these next 3 months, as I'm sure you're ready to go. So I know Miami's gonna be a much different meet than Jamaica.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, to the moon, mate. To the absolute moon.
Absolutely. Good stuff, Josh. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.